Greetings, fellow dragon fruit growers. This is Paul, and today I am going to review American Beauty. Now, this beauty is 0.8 of a pound, and I got the plant from my friend, the late Leo Manuel, so I believe that it's an excellent source. Now, this is one of the plants that was evaluated by UC Irvine's UCNR, and I believe the data is accurate in terms of harvest time and brick score and appearance of the plant. Now you can see that they said that they got it from Florida, and the original source is Pine Island, as you can see here. And what makes this story even more interesting is that there's actually two sources with evidence. First, Chris Rollins said that he collected it in the Guatemalan highlands and gave it to Pine Island. And also there's evidence that Quang Ong Self-Fertile went to Pine Island as well, which could possibly be the source of American Beauty as well. So it's possible that both were cuttings that were mixed together because they're so similar in appearance, or that one of these is the true American Beauty, or maybe both of them are. Now on top of that, local farms in San Diego considered G2 and American Beauty the same. And you can see here's a few different Guatemalan varieties, and you can see just how similar the fruit looks. This one's Condor here, and this one is my friend Leo's eBay Self-Fertile. So let's focus on American Beauty and let's see how it tastes. And it's just a beautiful fruit. Look at this lovely, lovely flesh. Now they will get a little larger over a pound, but 0.8 of a pound is a nice sized fruit. See how it smells? Slight aroma. Smells like a typical cactus fruit. Nothing too spectacular. So let's go ahead and test the brick score and see how sweet this thing is. And in case you haven't seen me do this before, what you want to do to get the most accurate bricks reading is that you want to get your sample from the center of the fruit. And you do not want to use any of the flesh of the fruit, just the liquid. And that's how you get an accurate reading. Try to eliminate the bubbles too if possible. Okay, the moment of truth. 16 5/10. Now you can see I had a smaller fruit just the other day off the same plant, and it was bricksed in the 18s. So I guess I could have left this one on a little bit longer. But no matter, let's give it a shot. Absolutely delicious. The texture of it is nice and smooth, it's juicy. I describe it as refreshing. Man, just a lovely fruit. Definitely in my top 5 varieties to grow. So if you can only grow 5 varieties, I would highly recommend American Beauty. I give it a 9 out of 10. I love this fruit. You can see the skin is not too thin. There's a nice flesh to seed ratio. You can see there's a lot more flesh than seed. It's just delicious. Kind of reminds me of watermelon and some berries. A very nice, juicy, flavorful fruit. Just delicious. So that is American Beauty, and that's some of the history behind it. The only negative aspect I could think about is that the plant is a little sensitive to cold, but if it is a mature cutting, it's going to do just fine. So it's more of those younger branches are a bit more sensitive in my experience. And you can get a little bit of stem rot in that with that variety as well, so be a little careful. Greetings, fellow dragon fruit lovers. This is Paul, and you can see I'm going to review Condor, which is a historical variety, and it's weighing in at 0.6 of a pound, a little over 0.6 of a pound. Now, Edgar Valdivia used this variety in his Asunta breeding program, So this is a pretty important variety, and it's a Hylocereus guatemalensis. You can see it's a Guatemalan variety. It's got some similarities to American Beauty and G2, which I have ripe here. Now, I really like Condor. I'm excited to try it, and it will Brix anywhere between 19 and 20 when it's ripe. Now, Dario G from Condor Growers in Camarillo, California, had this variety and shared it with Edgar Valdivia and other California rare fruit growers around 2004. So this variety has been around for about 18 to 20 years in my estimation. Now, it's called Condor because it's named after the farm where they got it from, and the drawback about it is that it is self-sterile. So it's not a self-fertile variety. But you can see it's just a beautiful colored flesh. Really nice flesh to seed ratio. It's just a beautiful variety. Now, Leonardo at Oceanside Dragon Fruit said it has a beautiful aroma, and it's one of his favorite varieties, and it definitely does have a nice, pleasant smell. So let's go ahead and see what the sugar content is on this fruit. As you can see last time, I had, what was it, 19.6, I believe, as you can see right there. So let's see if we could get a similar score today. So I used distilled water to get the zero, the proper baseline for this device. This Brix refractometer. And then you want to get just the juice out from the dead center. That's where dragon fruits are the sweetest. And you just want to use the liquid like you see I'm using here. You can see how juicy this dragon fruit variety is. And although this is only a 16.7, I think anything 16 and above tastes great. And again, this will Brix into the about 20. So let's go ahead and give it a shot and see how it tastes today. Wonderful, delicious. This one's a bit more tart. I probably could have left it on the plant for another few days. Probably would have increased the sugar content of this fruit. But it's just a delicate, beautiful, flavored fruit. Kind of has a watermelon texture and a really delicious kind of a berry vibe, which is really, really pleasant. Now it is a bit more purple with under the human eye. It doesn't quite pick up that purpleness on film, but this is just a wonderful fruit. I wish I didn't pick it quite so early in hindsight. It would have been sweeter, and I think it tastes a bit better when it's a little sweeter, in my humble opinion. Really juicy, just a delightful fruit. I'd give this an 8 or a 9 out of 10. I've had some that taste like a 9 to me, but this fruit here is an 8. So, again, I wish I picked this a little bit later, but it's really a delicious, enjoyable fruit. So there you go. That is Condor. Give us a like and a subscribe. And I highly recommend this variety. I really like Condor. I think it's a delicious fruit, flavorful, historical. The only bummer is the plant does kind of grow slow in my experience at first, but after some time, after 2 seasons, it really picks up in its growth. You can also see here is the flower. I wanted to show you that as well. It's a beautiful flower that smells delicious. Greetings, fellow dragon fruit lovers. This is Paul, and I'm very excited to share a tasting review on this very unique and rare variety called 3S Red. Now, if you know a little bit about Paul Thomson, look at that, it's over a pound and a quarter almost. But if you know a little bit about Paul Thomson, 3S became the only variety he named called Delight. Now, throughout the years, I've heard that there was a 3.5 called Punch. And I got this plant from my friend Leo Manuel, the late Leo Manuel, who was very close friends with Paul Thomson. So this could very well be the fabled 3.5 Punch. Now, Leo labeled his pot 3S Red from Manny. I do not know who Manny is, but you can see some of the sister seedling fruit here. This is 9S. Now this was renamed Dark Star, I believe, but Leo also had the original seedlings. So this is 9S, and then the fabled 4S, which is really hard to find too. This one is supposedly pale pink. So let's get to it. Let's try 3S red. Now it did ironically actually crack at the end and a bunch of ants were in there. So I thought I was gonna let it sit one more day, but it actually started to break apart off at the end. And look at that. That is not delight. So this could very well be the fabled punch. Now I'm gonna keep this labeled 3S red because I don't know for a fact if it's punch, but let's go ahead and give this puppy an official review. Now, first off the bat, let's see how it scores on the Brix refractometer. Let's see the sample that I take, how much roughly the sugar percentage is of the fruit. So you zero it out with distilled water, and then you're gonna wanna use the center part of the fruit to get the most accurate reading. Now you do not wanna use the flesh of the fruit, you just wanna use the juice, and you don't wanna get any seeds in it because it will skew the data. So I've seen a couple big farms online just use the flesh, the pulp, like 3 Lucky Mountains. That is not gonna be an accurate reading, I hate to say. So hopefully they'll start using a strainer or using this method with a pipette. Okay, the moment of truth. If I push the button right. Wow, 19 7/10. So this is really close to 20, which is kind of the score that I like to keep in my breeding program. And look at that, beautiful fruit. 3S red flesh. So thank you, Leo, my dear friend that passed on, and thank you, Manny, for giving this to Leo. And let's see how it tastes. That's delicious. Wow. Kind of like Dark Star or Purple Haze. It is very similar to its sister seedlings, but this is a nice large fruit, really pretty flesh. Very juicy. Moist. The seed to flesh ratio is nice. No earthiness detected in the seeds. And overall, just a pleasant, lovely fruit. Man, I'm so stoked. Such an interesting piece of history. I wish I could go back in time and talk to Paul Thomson and see about this unique seedling. So 3S red. And as you can see, it's not really red. It's just darker flesh. Really pleasant, typical kind of, how would I describe this flavor? It's different than some, I wouldn't call it a watermelon, like some of the Guatemalans, I kind of refer to that flavor. This one's hard to describe. Really clean. It doesn't taste quite as sweet as almost 20. What was it, 19 7/10? But it's really balanced, really enjoyable, light, delicious, no aftertaste, and just a beautiful, look at that color. There's a little bit of, it's a really interesting color. I don't think this is just a mislabeled 5S or anything. I think this is something unique. So there you go. 3S red. I'd rate this a 9 out of 10. Really great fruit, really balanced. There's some acidity to it. It's not too flavorful, like overwhelming. It's really just a great, delicious, sweet fruit. Greetings, fellow dragon fruit lovers. This is Paul with another dragon fruit review. Today I'm going to review Neitzel, which is a self-fertile undatus, and it weighs in a little over 3/4 of a pound. Now, the California Rare Fruit Growers made a selection, and this is a tribute to the late Jim Neitzel. Many sellers have this variety, including Pine Island had it, and Matt's Landscape. And last season, you can see that the fruit was over a pound, and the Brix was low at 13.7, but it tasted great. Now you can also see the flower bud and the flower, and it's similar to other undatus looking, but the branches are a little different. So in other words, the flower and bud's pretty typical, but the branches look different. So let's review this beautiful fruit today, and let's see how it tastes. But before we do that, I want to show you, other than some of the damage from all the humidity we've had recently, I think that's what's causing this, it's a beautiful fruit. It's just gorgeous looking, really pretty on the outside. The bracts are really nice. It's an interesting shape. And then when I cut it, it reminds me of Snow White. So let's give it a cut and let's see how it tastes and the Brix sugar content. We'll estimate the sugar content of the sample I take. So see, look at that. It's like Snow White. This is just a gorgeous looking dragon fruit. Now, in my humble opinion, I do not think that this was the one that Paul Thomson used to make his cross. I believe he used fence, but I'm not sure. But it makes sense because this was kind of a tribute after Jim Neitzel passed away. All right, let's go ahead and Brix it first to see how sweet it is. Okay, which one is this one? So this one's going to be right in the center. Really a gorgeous looking white flesh, appearance-wise. And a little more juice. Now, if you didn't know, you want to get your sample from the middle as much as the dead center as possible, because that's where dragon fruits are the sweetest. And you don't want any seeds, so this one's a little bit drier, you could see, than maybe a Guatemalan. You don't want any of that. Okay, let's see how it does. So 14 3/10. Now, maybe next season, or I have 3 more fruit on the plant, it will get sweeter, but I don't think it's gonna get above 16 or maybe 17. And that's okay. This is still gonna taste really good. It's kind of lemony, if I remember right, like lemonade. Now the texture's not as nice as Guatemalan for sure. It's a little bit dry, but it's still a really good kind of tangy dragon fruit. With a nice finish. The only drawback I could think of for this fruit is that the texture is just a little bit granule, I would say. Where like Guatemalan, like American Beauty, it'd be really, really smooth and juicy. This one's a little bit more, has a bit more of a granule texture, which isn't always bad. It's really good. I do enjoy this fruit. I can eat the whole thing. And you can see that the skin is still nice and thick. So this probably does have commercial potential. It's not really thin skin. And just the appearance on the outside, it seems like this would be a really good fruit to do like some special fancy fruit platter or something, because it's just so pretty. And it does have like a lemonade kind of tartness. It's good. It's not as good as like some other whites I've had, taste-wise, but appearance-wise, this is one of the prettiest. Seeds are not earthy. I give this a solid 7 out of 10. Now, this is a white I am going to keep. I am going to probably get rid of some of the whites at the end of the season and really focus on my own breeding program from here on out. But this one will make the cut just in the appearance alone and the color. I think that has some value to the breeding program, of course. Okay, so there you go. Jim Neitzel's Hylocereus undatus, and it was delicious. Give us a like and a subscribe. Thanks so much for your time. Have yourself a wonderful day, and hopefully you'll get to try one of these, or even better, grow one of these in the future. And if you like pretty looking fruit, this is your variety in my opinion. Greetings, fellow dragon fruit growers. This is Paul with another fruit review. Today I'm going to review Paul Thomson's number 7. It's one of his unknown species, and I got this from his friend. This plant here, I got it from his friend, the late Leo Manuel. And you can see in his book, he describes this plant as number 7. It's horny, and will have 1 to 2 spines. Now, I've already had some fruit off of this plant, and you can see it's brixed at a 19 8/10. Now, what I'm really excited to do is to compare to see if this is actually the same as Valdivia Roja, which was floating around the same time period. So these are very, very similar, if not the same varieties. So you can see the two fruit here. It's not the best lighting, but they're very, very similar. So let's go give this a taste and see how we like it. As you can see here, it's weighing in at almost 39 hundredths of a pound. And that it's a little bit different in color compared to some other varieties. It's a bit more orange. Now, I did want to mention that this variety has one of the most beautiful flowers, just like Valdivia Roja, which is another indication that they are very similar, if not the same variety. So let's go ahead and give this a cut open, and let's see how it tastes. Now, it is a red flesh variety, and this is a Hylocereus ocamponus. And those tend to come from the regions in Mexico. So I believe the history behind this plant is that it came from Valdivia Ranch. It is not related to Edgar Valdivia, who created the Asunta line. So let's go ahead and see the brick score on this lovely beast and review this fruit. Now, I did forget to add the distilled water. There we go. And we're gonna set this to 0. There we go. And let's go ahead and see how sweet this fruit is. Now again, you can see before that it has brixed. The same plant is brixed at 19 8/10. So that's a sweet variety. Now, one thing I noticed about this is it's not as moist. It's a bit more dense, and it's not as juicy, I should say, as some of the other varieties I've eaten. Now this one's really low. Look at that, 13.5. So it might have needed some more time. It did change color a few days ago. So 13 5/10 is a low score, but honestly, it doesn't matter how sweet this fruit is. I've had it close to 20, and it still doesn't taste excellent, I hate to say. Not bad, but the problem with number 7 and Valdivia Roja both, actually I really think these are the same, is that they're dense, that the flesh is really dense and kind of dry. And it tastes like vegetables. You know when you're little, or maybe you're like me when you're little and your parents made you eat vegetables you didn't like? That's how I describe this fruit, but sweeter. I mean, it's still sweet. It's okay. I'd give it a 5 out of 10. I mean, it's better than most store-bought varieties of dragon fruit, in my humble opinion. But again, it's like eating your healthy vegetables, eating your greens. I can't really finish this fruit when I eat it. So I may grow it for a few more years to evaluate it and just enjoy the flower, or maybe use it in hybridizing. But if you're gonna own 5 dragon fruit or 10 dragon fruit varieties, do not own this one. There's so many better dragon fruit varieties in my opinion. So I hate to be rude to Paul Thomson's number 7 or Valdivia Roja. They do have beautiful flowers, but again, it's like eating vegetables. So I don't want to eat any more of this. And again, I give it a 5 out of 10. So give it a like and a subscribe, and we'll keep trying, hopefully, some better varieties. Let's try this one. I'm going to do this one for our next episode, 4S. Paul Thomson's 4S. Greetings, fellow dragon fruit lovers. This is Paul with another dragon fruit review. Today I'm going to review K1. It's weighing in at 82 hundredths of a pound, almost 83 hundredths. You can see it's a beautiful looking dragon fruit. It's a Hylocereus undatus, and it's similar to Vietnamese white. Now this variety can get over 1.5 pounds, believe it or not. So this is just half the size of its potential. Now it's reported to be self-fertile, and you can see its flower bud here. And then here is the flower that produced this fruit. So it's a really beautiful fruit. Look at the bracts. Really like its appearance. Let's see how it tastes. And there you go. Nice, beautiful white fleshed fruit. Kind of reminds me of Neitzel a little bit, but not quite as pretty. Let's see how sweet it is. I do like the flesh to stem, or flesh to seed ratio. You can see, not too seedy, which is a good thing. And I don't expect it to be too high for a few reasons. One, probably picked it a couple days early. Two, it's the first fruit off of this plant. But sometimes looks can be deceiving, and it may actually end up to be okay. Let's see. I have had Vietnamese white, so we'll see if it tastes like that as described. And I got this variety from Spicy Exotics, and they got it from a grower in California. So 16, not bad for our first fruit. 15.9, especially with an undatus, and I would assume it would get a little higher. So that's a solid score, especially for a white flesh variety. It's very productive too, by the way. The plant is on its 3rd flush. Wow. I plan to purge some of my white flesh varieties at the end of the season, but this one's really sweet, really good. A little bit of a floral vibe. In terms of taste, this is better than other white varieties I've had, especially like Jim Neitzel. The texture is smoother and better, softer, I guess is a nice word to describe it. This is actually the first white flesh fruit that I could say I really enjoy. So that's something to say. Wow. Yeah, maybe a bit of a kiwi, watermelon kind of vibe. But flavor-wise, it's just a white flesh that's sweet. Nice texture, nice and juicy. Enjoyable. Slightly floral. Ever so slightly floral. Neutral is a good way to describe it too. And definitely like way better. I would say it's much better than a store-bought white flesh variety. I plan to keep K1. It's a good one. I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. 7 to 7.5 sounds about fair. There are better dragon fruit varieties out there, but for self-fertility and productivity, this is a good, solid white flesh fruit. It's got commercial potential too. Look at the skin on it. It's brixing at 16, but it's still got a thick enough skin to protect it from bruising. So there you go, K1. Give us a like and a subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. And if you need a white flesh variety, I recommend this one. I like it more than Vietnamese white, personally. At least the ones I've had. Greetings, fellow dragon fruit growers. This is Paul with another fruit review. Today I'm going to review this just over 1/2 pound JALA number 1. Now you can see its beautiful exterior. It's really a nice dark red, especially compared to some of these other Ocamponis. This is El Grullo, and this one is Panama. So very interesting. Now you can see how they describe it in Paul Thomson's book. And there's even pictures. And then I found it in Leo Manuel's collection. So you can see that pot. And look at this bulbous flower bud. It's just stunning. Really interesting and unique. And it grows and turns into this amazing looking flower, which is definitely unique as well. Now I believe it needs to be cross-pollinated to set fruit. It is self-sterile in my experience. So let's go ahead and give this a taste. Now I've tried 2 fruit off of the plant already, but let's see how this larger one is, and I let it stay on another week, so it's a bit more ripe than the other ones I've tasted. And there it is, a red-fleshed variety. Now, there are quite a bit of seeds in there, which I have experienced. This can be a bit seedy, but that's not always a bad thing. So let's see how this tastes. And let's measure the brick score. You can see the color of the pulp. It's best reflected in its juices right there. You can see it's like a dark magenta. Like a raspberry, dark raspberry color. Okay. Probably be really good in smoothies or in like a fruit salad. But let's make sure it doesn't taste earthy, or sometimes some of these Ocamponis don't taste very good. These some of the ones I've had. You can see it's harder to extract the juices here than say like a Guatemalan. And you do not want that pulp affecting your data. There we go. So 14 and a half. 14 and a half. Now I've had it probably, I think it was in the mid 15s. It'll probably go up to 16, but that's usually the max for some of these red fleshed varieties, except for El Grillo, which will get higher, close to 20. Definitely crunchy seeds, but they are not earthy, which is a good thing. Does taste a little bit like vegetables. It's like cooked beets, some describe it as. Sweetness with some beetness vibe to it. Dense texture. Not bad for Ocamponis. They are not my favorite varieties. Although I have several more that I'm going to taste in the collection, and maybe they'll change my mind. I'd give this about a 5, 5.5 out of 10. It's unique. It's definitely a hard to find variety. And some people from that region in Mexico, it's probably a bit of nostalgia, I guess, or, you know, reminds them of home. So I could see a lot of people enjoying these for that reason. But there's much better dragon fruit to consume than this variety. So, again, 5.5 out of 10. A little seedy. Tastes kind of like eating vegetables, but with some sweetness to it. So, that's the story with JALA number 1. Greetings, fellow dragon fruit lovers. This is Paul with another fruit review. Now today I'm going to review, just weighing in at over a pound, Maria Fuscia. Now I crossed this with Laverne Pink pollen, and I wrote this because I want to collect some seeds, because I want to grow some hybrids of this specific cross. So you can see that this fruit has a unique shape, and it actually came from Elk Creek dragon fruit. And I went and collected it off of the mother plant back in 2020, and the plant is just over 2 years old, and you can see how productive it is. Look at how productive it is. Now you can also see what the flower buds look like, and what the flower looks like when it's open. So quite the very productive plant for just over 2 years old, and this is definitely one of my favorite fruit in the top 10. Now, this plant was mislabeled as the wrong Maria Rosa and distributed pretty much all over the world. And there may actually be another variant, but people love this out in the Philippines. This has been a part of people's breeding program, and it's a popular fruit out there. So I worked with a few people, and we decided to call it Maria Fuscia since it was sold as a mislabeled Maria Rosa from Elk Creek. So you can see the beautiful color. It's really a nice looking fruit. It's high quality, and I think it has some commercial potential. Look, it's got a nice flesh to seed ratio. The skin isn't too thin, so this could possibly be used for commercial production. Now let's see how sweet it is. Now it has Brixed in the mid-18s before last season. So let's see what it can do this season. The plant matures a bit. And what I like about it is this plant is on its 4th wave this season, which is very, very productive. It has some more flower buds on it right now at the end of August. So I'm excited to have fruit into October from this variety. Okay, and I'm also noticing if I push this a few times, you get better readings. And I cover it with light. So 17.1. Again, I have seen it Brix at the 18.5 as you see here. So I picked this one a little bit early, which will mean it's going to be slightly more tart, which is okay by me. Really delicious fruit. Juicy like a Guatemalan, but definitely it packs more flavor in my opinion. Kind of some berry vibe to it, a slight berry mixed with grape. I really like this fruit. And I like the plant because it's just so productive. The drawback is that it is self-sterile, so it does require cross-pollination in my experience so far. Delicious fruit. I give this like an 8 or a 9 out of 10. I like it a bit more when it's sweeter. Actually, I don't know. I kind of like it like this today. A bit more tartness. Nice acidity mix. It's balanced, but it has this acidic vibe to it in a good way. So it's just not really sweet. It's got some depth to the flavor. Now, it's always sweetest in the middle, but they say that the best seeds are in the middle as well. So I'm gonna see if I can sprout some of those seeds and grow some seedlings from this cross. Man, you know it's a good dragon fruit when you want to eat the whole thing. And that's definitely how this dragon fruit tastes. Because I just can't wait to finish it, devour it. It's a lovely, lovely variety. And when I asked Elk Creek about it, my friend Linda, who owned the farm, it's now since been, she's retired and the farm is closed, but I asked her where this came from, and she said over the years she had quite a few unique varieties given to her from other people, and she said that this was an unknown hybrid from an unknown hybridizer. So that's as far as the story goes with this variety, Maria Fuscia. Greetings, fellow dragon fruit lovers. This is Paul with another dragon fruit review. Today I'm going to review Thai white dragon fruit. It's a Hylocereus undatus, and I got the plant from Wallace Ranch back in 2019. Now, it's a typical looking Hylocereus undatus, as you can see, and it's 89/100ths of a pound, but this thing will get over 1.5 pounds. So they will grow much larger. And this is commercially grown in Thailand That's where these cuttings reportedly came from. And you can see the flower bud and the flowers. So this one's a little bit more elongated than some of the other varieties, or the other fruit, I should say, on the plant. But it looks interesting nonetheless. So let's go ahead, cut it open, and see how it tastes. Nice, typical looking white fleshed variety, undatus. It's pretty. It's not as white as some of the other varieties, maybe like Neitzel is really white. This one's a bit more kind of opaque. So let's test the sugar content and see how sweet it is. And then we'll give it a taste. Now, I had a few of the fruit last season and I was not really impressed. So this one may be on the chopping block, and I may replace it with something else if I don't like this fruit today. It's just kind of bland, if I remember correctly, last season. But sometimes certain varieties take an extra season or two to really improve their fruit quality. So look at that, 9 9/10. Are you serious? Oops, pushed the wrong button. So, wow, a 10. That's not very high. Let's see how it tastes. Yeah, not my favorite. You can see there's even some little brown spots, kind of like Strenopterus will get. It's sort of mushy, the texture. Oh man. Thailand, you guys could grow better stuff than this. I mean, it's edible. Seeds are crunchy. It's got a little bit of sweetness to it. The texture is just kind of mushy. It's not as nice as other undatus. Really bland. Definitely not the best undatus in the collection. This one's gonna get the axe. It's gonna become compost, I have a feeling. Because I've had this for 3 years and the fruit is just not that good. So I would not recommend growing Thai white dragon fruit unless you like sort of bland, mushy fruit. I mean, it's got a little bit of flavor. Not floral, not lemony. Tastes kind of like a store-bought variety. So if you really like the store-bought whites, grow this one. And then it'll be like eating store-bought fruit year-round. Oh, at least it's not, I mean, it's better than some of the Camponis I've tried. I will say that. I'd rather eat this one than some of the others. But even if it was sweeter, I still feel pretty much the same way. I know that brick score is really low. And I possibly could keep this on the plant longer to improve the sweetness, but if you look, it's pretty darn ripe. I mean, the skin is it's not too thick. And it was sort of drying up at the end. So I feel that this is ripe. I mean, it's been on the plant for about 35 days, if I remember correctly. So yeah, Thai white, definitely not my favorite. I mean, it's edible, it's decent. Don't get me wrong, I'll finish this fruit today. I'm hungry. But out of all the undatus clones and cuttings out there, I mean, this one's self-fertile, which is nice, but there are way better varieties out there. So K1 I prefer. It's twice as good at least as this one. So far, I'd have to say my favorite undatus has been K1. But I have many more coming this season. And the Unknown Road, an unknown self-sterile one that we found as well is good. So there's my review. I give this a 5 out of 10. Greetings, fellow dragon fruit growers. This is Paul with another fruit review. Today I'm reviewing Gray Panama, and this is found in Paul Thomson's book, as you can see here, as number 27. It matches the description and the photos in his book. Now this plant has a very typical Ocamponus flower and fruit. However, it got really interesting as it ripened. It turned to yellow for about 24 hours, which I found really interesting. And it was extremely loose, so that's why I picked it. So, as you can see, it's really unique, and I'm excited to taste this fruit today. So let's go ahead and cut it open and see what it looks like. And there you go. So, a beautiful red fleshed fruit, almost like a dark purple. That's what it looks like. That color. And you can see it definitely was ripe. So interesting how it turned yellow right before it ripened. Like, this is a couple days ago. You can see how it compares to JALA, number 1, and El Grullo, which is my favorite Ocamponus I've tasted so far. I have several more in the yard I'm going to be tasting, hopefully, definitely by next season. Okay, first let's see how sweet this is. It is a pretty fruit. Now, Ocamponus tends to be a bit more dense. Texture's more like a pear, dense pear, I guess you could say, and not as juicy. Let's get that out of there. Well, this one has some juice. $13 3/10. It probably would get sweeter. Uh-oh. So there you go. A little low, but that's how some of these red flesh fruits are, and that doesn't mean it's going to be a bad fruit. All right, Panama. Actually tastes pretty sweet, like candied beets. Woo! Definitely has that earthiness to it. Ugh. And not my favorite dragon fruit variety for sure. Some people really like Ocamponus. Really interesting story though. These are not my favorite, but I brought several fruit last season to my neighbor's house for a tasting, including some of my favorites like Laverne Pink, Guatemalans, American Beauty, but the neighbors preferred El Grullo, which I found really interesting. Ugh. I cannot eat this whole fruit. Although if you like Ocamponus, you would love this fruit. It does taste sweet. It does taste like, I describe it as candied beets, really crunchy seeds. The plant's really hardy, so it would do well in probably Arizona and some of those harsher climates. No sourness to it, or like antiseptic. Sometimes some of the Ocamponus can taste that way. This one's actually, it's growing on me. But it still has that vibe of eating sweet vegetables. I would give this one a 6 out of 10. I do prefer having these back to back. I prefer Panama, gray Panama, over JALA. They're similar, but this one is better. Seeds are bigger. Seeds are really crunchy. That's the enjoyable part about it. And it's less dense. The density is less on this one. But, again, I'm not going to eat these whole fruit today. It's just not my favorite variety. Greetings, fellow dragon fruit lovers. This is Paul with another dragon fruit review. Today I'm going to review my friend, the late Leo Manuel's hybrid called Leo's Dragon. It's weighing in at just under a pound. And it's a really beautiful looking fruit here, as you can see. Lovely exterior. And here is one from another pot, and I labeled it pot K. And we're gonna assess both of these today to see if they're the same variety, because Leo had over 20 pots of this cross, and there are several different seedlings, but as you can see here, all the flowers bloomed at the same time, right before dusk, which was early, and it was about 7:50 at night. So they all opened at exactly the same time, smelled the same, looked the same. So let's see what these look like inside, and let's review these today. Now this one has been really exciting looking. Look at that, beautiful magenta fleshed. And looks very similar, doesn't it? So I'll brix the smaller one here, but this one is the star of the show here because it's just a beautiful looking fruit. Look at that. It's nice and ripe. It's kind of thinner on the skin here, as you can see. And it does have a lot of seeds. Now what's exciting is some of the hybrids that I've tried so far are red flesh, and you can see this one is more of a magenta flesh. So I'm really excited to review this today. Now my friend, the late Leo Manuel, said that his favorite one, the one that he thought tasted the best, was magenta flesh. So we might be onto something. And to make things even more tricky, Leo had 2 pots of Leo's dragon. He labeled one A, pot A, and the other pot B. So let's see how sweet this thing is. Now we did have a heat wave, so a lot of the fruit ripened faster due to the temperature and the intense UV. So I think the score, the sugar content, will be a little low, but a higher brix isn't everything. As long as it's above 12 usually, in my opinion, it's going to be a decent fruit. All right, 14 8/10, respectable. I guarantee you it's going to be higher, and it will be higher, as long as we don't have another heat wave when the fruit are ripening. So let's give this a shot, and let's see how it tastes. Wow. Much more flavorful than Mr. Wu that I just reviewed, which looks similar. As you can see, this is Mr. Wu. But this one, wow, Leo, really delicious. I do not think this is the same as the Leo's Dragon that Spicy Exotic sells. I need to double check their website, because I believe that one's a red flesh. This one is the best in the series that I've tried so far. I have a lot more fruit ripening on those 20 pots of this cross, but this one is definitely the best flavor. Wow. It's very intense, like a mashed mixed berry. More like boysenberries. Not like a raspberry, more like a boysenberry in my opinion. Wow. I give this fruit an 8 out of 10. Could potentially get into the 9s. Now let's see how this other fruit tastes. But before we do that, I'm gonna see if they taste the same. The plant looks the same, the material. Let's check how sweet this one is. Wow, this is a really enjoyable fruit. I'm really surprised, pleasantly surprised. So this one's brixing at a 16, which is even better. Does it taste the same? Yes, it does. Nice amount of seeds, zero earthiness in the seeds, and it tastes like a mix of berries to me. Maybe even like a blackberry, raspberry, and blueberry mixture. Now, people generally say that Leo's Dragon is not the best flavor, at least the red flesh one, but wow, this one, this one has it. This one's great. So I highly recommend it. Leo's Dragon. Give us a like and a subscribe. Really great job, Leo Manuel. This is a wonderful hybrid. I hope some more. I'm going to share some fruit with some friends and see if they feel the same way about it. Greetings, fellow dragon fruit lovers. This is Paul with another fruit review. Today I'm going to review Espinas. It's weighing in at just over a pound. And you can see here it's a stunning fruit. And Espinas actually means without spines. So you can see the branch. They call it spineless. It really has 1 to 2 spines that are about 1 millimeter in length. I don't see any on this branch because it had created a bunch of flower buds that aborted. But it's near spineless, so this is a good variety if you don't like getting poked. And it's actually one of the first, or one of the 20 varieties that UCCE has studied. And you can see it Brixes in the mid 16 to 17, and it's native to Nicaragua. So it came up with Lisa, Sabra, and all those other Nicaraguan varieties. So it's really beautiful. And there is a downside. It's cold sensitive, and it's heat and UV sensitive as well. So a little bit harder to grow. I give it some shade from the avocado tree, and it's really happy. Now you can see it has really unique flower buds and growth. And then the flowers are really, really large, unique, beautiful flower. So let's go ahead, let's cut this open and see how it tastes. This is my second fruit that I've had this season. And I left this one on about a week longer than last time. And look at that. The skin's a little thin there. So this is probably at its peak ripeness. It's looking really good. I was worried that this variety was going to split. Wow, that's a beautiful looking fruit. All right, let's see how it tastes. You can see here the pulp. So that's the color. Well, the juices reflect the color of the pulp is what I'm trying to say. Let's zero this out. And the last one I had was about I think a 14. So let's see how the sugar content is on this lovely, lovely large ripe fruit. It's looking nice and juicy. Some of the red flesh varieties can be a bit more earthy, I guess you could say, but others are truly just spectacular, like smushed berries. So 15 1/10. There you go. So it will get higher in time, but 15 is a respectable score, or respectable value. Wow. It's definitely a unique flavor compared to other red flesh varieties. This one's good. I like it. Kind of like, I think someone online described it as a cherry vibe. And it's not like the sweet cherries. It's more like a nice ripe cherry that you get off of a tree. It's juicy and firm texture. The red flesh are high in antioxidants. That's good. I do not detect any earthiness in the seeds. Really enjoyable fruit. I think it'd be even better if it was maxed out on the bricks or up at the 17s. I think that would be really delicious. But I do agree that it does kind of put out a mild cherry vibe, is how I would describe it. Unlike others, it tastes like a raspberry or strawberry kind of mashed. This one's really good. It's mild. I really like it. I would give this, I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10, which is definitely a respectable score. The thing I don't like about it is I would like a bit more punch of flavors, and that may be achieved in time. This is the first season that this plant has produced fruit, and it's on its second wave right now. And there's quite a bit of seeds. They're pleasant. They're not overly crunchy, but they're definitely there. So it's just kind of like a mild cherry, slight grape vibe. But it's really good. I enjoy it. Greetings, fellow dragon fruit lovers. This is Paul with another dragon fruit review. Today I'm going to review this Edgar's Baby. It's 9/10 of a pound. You can see I actually harvested 2 fruit off of the plant. So I'm really excited to eat this. It's another season older now, and let's see if the flavor has changed much. Now this is a hybrid of Hylocereus stenopterus with Hylocereus guatemalensis. And in fact, it's an Asunta seedling that was crossed with Condor, according to Spicy Exotics website. And the last time I had this, it bricked at 17 7/10. Now you can see what the flower bud looks like. And the flower. And harvest time is anywhere from 45 to 50 days in my experience. So let's go ahead, let's cut this thing open, and let's take a good look at it and see how it tastes this season. There it is. So it could be slightly overripe here. It could be due to the heat wave. You can see it's a little bit overripe there, but still a nice, beautiful color and texture. Now, just for kicks, let's cut open this one, take a look at it as well, and see how it compares. It's off of the same plant. So there you go, slightly different shape, slightly different weights, and let's see how they taste. Well, first, let's see how they score on the Brix refractometer. That dude needs to slow down. All right. So I think I'll go with this one first. And remember, it's always sweetest right in the center. You can see how juicy this variety is already too. I really enjoyed this one. Anything with a guatemalensis gene tends to be pretty tasty in my book. So there you go, 17 3/10. Same score. And let's quickly check this other fruit. Why not? See if it's consistent. It's also really easy to get all the juices out, as you can see. So almost 18, look at that, moving up. So I'll try the slightly sweeter one first. Definitely like a floral hit, like the Asuntas, earlier Asuntas have, in a nice way. I think this fruit has improved as it got older. That's one thing with dragon fruit varieties you got to be careful with, is the first season, the fruit may not be very exciting or even very tasty, but as the plant matures, the fruit quality increases. This is delicious. I really like Edgar's Baby. So the flavors would be a bit of floral, maybe a little coconut and lychee. That's how I would kind of describe it. And then a bit of like a berry vibe. Very pleasant fruit. Last time I reviewed this, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. This year, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Fruit, the 2 fruit taste really, really similar. I don't detect a difference. I actually prefer the one that is slightly less sweet, this one. Could be a different pollen source, because I cross-pollinated them with a bunch of different pollen. Sometimes I had 10 varieties mixed up, so who knows what this was pollinated with. Really delicious fruit. I highly recommend Edgar's Baby. It's definitely one staying in the collection because it's productive, it's tasty, it's a nice balance. It even has some acidity to it. I recommend Edgar's Baby. So if you don't have it, you should grow this variety. Definitely in my top 20, possibly my top 10. So there you go. Edgar's Baby. Give us a like and a subscribe, and I hope you can try this delicious fruit. Thank you, Edgar Valdivia, for creating this. And I look forward to eating some more, as you can see, soon. So I think next I'm going to review Danny's Pride of Fallbrook. All right, thanks for watching. Give us a subscribe. Have a wonderful day. See you soon.